We just saw KGF 2.
It's kind of bad.
This is Water Over Toilet Paper, and today we'll be reviewing KGF 2.
So I think it is an improvement over the predecessor for sure. The story here is way better than the first one too. It actually kind of builds on what the first one was. The first one was kind of like a rise to power thing, and now here he's quote unquote dealing with the power.
I think it also helps that there's a bigger budget here since it made so much money. So they could actually have more set pieces in different locations than in just like one desert. This time they could like think of much bigger scale things and deliver on it to some extent.
The villains were way more memorable here than whoever the fuck Garuda was in part 1. This powerful politician figure who's out to get Rocky, and on the other hand is this really cool fucking like Viking warrior guy.
The first like 20-30 minutes was really well done in taking over KGF, and his entry also was really cool with a lot of helicopters and drums, and it looked cool.
By far the best part of both the movies is the cinematography, the sets, the costumes, everything. It all looks appropriately grand and big.
The songs in the film were fun. Some of the ideas for the elevation scenes were cool. There are a lot of elevation scenes, so it's kind of hard. But if you had filtered them out, there are like some really cool ideas. Yash's performance is fine. He looked cool.
Yeah, he didn't really have so much to work with.
Most of the actors didn't get so much to perform, so they were all shouting. The last 15 minutes of the movie is really good. That is the only time in the movie where they actually deliver on something. Otherwise, most of the movie, Rocky Bhai is always above every situation. Here he actually does something which actually impacts him, which is much better than most of the movie. It also makes the whole "this is a story of a mother and son" thing also work better. Very memorable ending.
Negatives. For all the nice things this movie has, one thing it fucks up is basic scene structure. Every scene in this movie has the same fucking idea, which is at the end of the scene, someone's elevated.
Not even someone, it's always
Rocky, yeah. And it fucking follows that ad nauseum throughout. Mind-numbing to see, like scene after scene. It's so loud.
In a weird way, like feels like a Mr. Beast video or something where like every 5 seconds there's something.
I'm gonna spend the next 50 hours buried alive in this coffin.
The problem is the movie never even calms down with the music.
Calms down, yeah.
Like every scene, even like the normal conversation scene, there's always like some like
it's
music
doing that like Prakash Raj, Rocky, villain, someone. These 3 tracks are constantly running, and it's constantly like cutting between these 3. When it's this like multiple track intercutting thing, you feel like you're seeing so much more than you really are. But they do it throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Every elevation scene, bar none, is this again and again and again.
And it's done purposefully. It looks nice and you feel the impact, but a lot of the time you're like, why is this with this? Like, what does it have to do with any of this? By a second half, it was just like mind-numbing. Just like elevation after elevation. It's just like, Rocky Boy cool, Rocky Boy great, Rocky Boy amazing. The movie in a strange way feels very insecure, where it can't let the hero be down for a bit. Like even if he's down for like 5 minutes, the next 5 minutes is just him being up and up and up. Before the interval, there's like a clear point where he loses,
like down.
Yeah, he's down, like, he loses.
But then in like the span of 3 minutes, he gets back up. He's like, you know, I actually beat them. Like I did it. No one saw it. I did it.
There's a mother and son relationship that they keep showing in the first half. Show like a bunch of sentimental scenes and cut to like sad thing happens to them. Same with the romance. It's like finally accepts him. They're like happy. There's a song. Cut to, oh no, something bad happens to her. For such a movie which has a claim of it's such a complex narrative and all that, it can't juggle at least 2 balls at the same time. It's always like, oh, this is the hype part, this is the romance part, this is the sentiment part.
It feels like these emotional points have no meaning or consequence whatsoever, really, because it feels like, oh, I'm doing this, so the elevation hits harder, and that's the only reason.
This lack of confidence in a way is also in the villain characters, where the entire first half is like Sanjay Dutt is the only villain and Raveena Tandon only comes in the second half. If they just showed them both in the same time, it would have given Rocky Bhai more to face than just like one man with a sword. For all the hype that Raveena Tandon's like political character got, they don't really have such a clash. There's literally like 1 or 2 scenes where they even interact, and those are also like fine.
Kind of bad.
The writing of the movie is the biggest problem in the film. There's so many underdeveloped, underwritten characters. The problem is not that they're over over the top. The problem is they're not given anything. The Rao Ramesh character, who's like a police officer, he just is there to just say like, oh, he's the biggest criminal, man. He's the coolest man. There's Prakash Raj, whose character is even less
consequential.
They try to make some point with his father's relationship with him,
which is so ham-fisted,
and didn't end up adding to the story in any way. It's just like sort of there.
Like, my biggest problem with the writing is that it feels more like it was just built to serve up elevation scenes more than anything else. The only time the writing ever really worked for me was in the ending, where it felt like, oh, shit happened and he's responding to shit. Instead of like, shit happens and he already responded, bruh. Yeah. He'll win, dude. Like, Rocky is the greatest.
Even these elevation scenes, it doesn't really find new ways. It's the same beat of like, first, like, there's a problem. Then Rocky Bhai suggests like a very insane idea, and everyone is like shocked at just the idea of their
audacity of the Rocky.
And then Rocky Bhai just like goes and does it, and everyone is like, oh my god, he is God. Yeah. And this happens every other scene. The romance in the movie was pretty bad.
Yes. Like, congratulations. I love you.
Classic line. The way it was established in the first part itself was pretty bad.
I love you. How dare you? How fair you?
And it didn't help that even in the second part, they're just like continuing with the same thing. And at the end, she's suddenly like, oh, I like you because now I know that you're doing everything for your mother. Whoa. There's also this car action scene that was edited so poorly. It was
basically did this.
Yeah.
Can you guys see? It's very fucking annoying.
And even though like the movie looks really good, the action set pieces are not even filmed that well. There's a lot of like quick cut bullshit.
Like, especially like in Sanjay Dutt and Rocky's fight.
Yeah.
You don't really feel a sense of place or impact really at all.
Yeah, it doesn't help that the protagonist himself is not someone with so much character. It's just like he's a cool hunk man who says funny things in English. The movie itself doesn't try to explore that side of him, like why is he after this and all that. It just sort of says like, oh, my mother told it, so it's good. It makes sense for the character himself to think that, but the movie is also telling you that he is a good person because he's doing what his mother told him. It's just sort of odd. There's also this very hacky twist at the end, which is so kinda like forced. It's like, oh my god, this villain from the first movie is still a villain and he was behind this all along.
No way.
It's like
conclusion. Even though it's a big improvement over its predecessor, it still carries like the fucking pains of the old one, where it's just so long and each scene concept is the same. It's just elevation after elevation after elevation into the fucking stratosphere.
It's a very long, mind-numbing, elevation-filled, loud movie.
It's very nice that it's making a lot of money, that a lot of people are. I'm glad like the Kannada film industry has this like ginormous fucking iconic hit with it.
But I don't get it.
I give this 3 to 4 out of 10.
I give this a 4 out of 10. Like this video.
Share this video.
Subscribe to the channel.
Bye. Bye everybody.
Bye bye.